Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When they told us that that these people deserve safety when they go to conflict areas, they say safety, but the reality is that the state wants them to go to areas which the state has permitted. We think that is a wrong concept because we ultimately think that more information input is available for these freelance journalists is better for democratic decision making. And also for the public in making any decisions related to their life. We don't think that limitation of input of information is a just concept. And we tell you, for that reason alone, they lose respect. But secondly, moreover, we tell you that the protection for these freelance journalists is something that they have already consented to. They have consented as adults, reasonable beings, to the risks that they would take on when they go to dangerous areas. And we think respecting these people's rights then leads to more information, and that is a good cause for everyone, and that's what we oppose. So, 4 things I'm going to demonstrate in my speech. Firstly, I'm going to talk about media's role in democracies. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the analysis of big media and freelance incentives and what kind of information they get. And lastly, about the impacts of the policy. Why do we think this is just bad for decision making of the public? Before going into these things, let me give you a couple of rebuttals to what we heard from the previous speaker. So firstly, they have told us about these people can't protect because they don't know where it's dangerous. Now, we think they know where they're dangerous. They're professionals. They have experienced what kind of conflict areas conflict areas are, and also they have compared it to the state. State gets information from these journalists. So journalists know better than the state. No, sit down. So second thing, they have told us was that second thing was about demand for the big media to make them go to risky areas. But the thing is, they are grown-up adults all the time, Mr. Speaker. So what is the motivation for them to go to dangerous areas beyond their own reasonable decisions? So we think ultimately it is up to the choice of these individuals, and when they have consented to the risk, why do we have to protect them paternalistically? We didn't see a reason for that. And thirdly, they have thought about state interest. Now, state interest was very vague. Like the biggest impact we heard was that we have to pay ransom for hostages. But the thing is, that is always a political decision. It's a decision made time by time. Sometimes we don't pay ransoms against terrorists. So why do we think that is a big problem altogether? Now sit down. And lastly, they have talked about check and balance. Now the logic was there's no check and balance because freelance photos are maybe very inaccurate. But the thing is, this model makes like they have agreed that these photos will be published to the world through the check and balance of big media corporations which they support. So we think check and balance exists. And secondly, even if things are inaccurate, we think there is the democratic check. People are arguing about the accuracy of that picture. So we think accuracy is going to be protected anyway. So firstly, about media role on democracy. Now, Mr. Speaker, we think that democracy is is precedented on informed citizens because you have to know everything in order to make independent decisions that suit your best lifestyle, Mr. Speaker. And we think the media's role is to counter the state authority, Mr. Speaker. And that is the crucial point. And that's why we don't limit media's right to limit accessibility of information for the media. For example, like the state is already powerful. State has the capacity to choose what kind of educational programs they install to children, so they can actually shift people's mindset into a certain direction. And we think it is only media that can actually go behind the curtains of these governments and public information to go against the government's preferred narratives. We think information is always important. And the biggest example to prove you is that the fact that we don't force media to even in court to reveal the source of information because that is a crucial thing for them, Mr. Speaker. And we think, therefore, we can take that already in the status quo. We respect media's freedom and we shouldn't get rid of it through this policy. So the second thing about the incentive of big media and the freelance media. But before that, yes, sir.
If you think maximizing information is absolutely a good thing, do you also think getting information from while tapping from one's phone is also okay?
Yes, in some occasions, if it causes better discourse, it gives you better information, we think that is a just cause. Moving back to the media analysis. Now, when you are in a media, like they big media, like they have told you, like people go to war conflict zones via the embedding of militaries, or the state-owned military, Mr. Speaker. So we think this is a problem. And also, we think there is an incentive for the company to actually follow that. Because the company, when you're in a company, the biggest motivation is the long-term maintenance of the operation, which means that you don't take risky actions, or you don't force your employees to take the risk of death, because you lose your precious human resources, which you have paid a lot in terms of education. These big companies don't do that. Compared to that, freelance journalists, they are completely free. They have the incentive to gain fame through through getting pictures and writing news, which are very full of impact, and therefore we think they take the risk. Now, so that is the reason why we think that. By allowing freelance media journalists to go to conflict zones, you can go to the most dangerous areas. Now, what information, firstly, about the impact, what information are going to come out, are going to be lost when you take the government policy? Firstly, for example, because they only go to safest areas, like they have actually consented, we think information, for example, about NGOs working in the most dangerous areas and actually saving a lot of people's lives, these kind of photos will be lost, Mr. Speaker. So and therefore we think there's a problem, because then you can't make a decision to actually give them charitable support and these kind of things. So we think that is another information people need to know. But secondly, we think when you are controlled by this, limited in terms of the access to place by the embedded military, you can't actually go behind and then reveal the state's unjust act in war. For example, torturing, for example, killing people from a helicopter even though you know they are civilians, and these kind of acts can't be known when you're limited in terms of access by the state. And lastly, when you only go to safest areas, Mr. Speaker, you can't have you probably produce pictures of safe areas, which means that the United States Army had done a good job in settling conflicts. Maybe that actually that distorts the public's mindset into making decisions about when to send troops and when not to. Mr. Speaker, for democracy, we oppose.